my world. No. Okay. Let's first give the definition. If there is a difference between bat and hand path.
Well, there is. How
Mhm.
your hands work from launch to extension and how your barrel works from launch to extension. There are subtleties that the hands will do to help or hurt your bat path through the zone. So typically, if your hand path is good, your barrel path will be good.
Yeah.
If your hands have a little bit of a drop and then you have a correction with the knob of the bat late in the swing, what happens is the barrel does funky stuff through the contact zone, 3 or 4 inches before contact, 3 or 4 inches after contact. So your hand path really is the key. You can't have a good barrel path if your hand path is bad. It's going to mirror itself. So what I always do when I'm breaking down swings is I'll chart the hand path. How do your hands work from launch to contact? Do they go down 3 inches and then up 6 inches, or do they go down 1 inch and then up 1 inch? What is your hand path? And what happens is the barrel will mirror that, say, a foot lower, okay, or 2 feet lower. It'll mirror the same exact path through the hitting zone. So if you're doing funky stuff with your hands, they drop and then boom, you yank them back up, then your barrel is going to drop and then it's going to be too steep out in front. So hand path is totally crucial. And it's where the old saying, short to it, long through it, came from. I don't know why that is the essence of hitting, people, and consistency is if you are short to the ball, short to the pitch plane, the ball coming in, and then you stay through that pitch plane, you're golden. Okay. But if you get long early and your barrel starts to decelerate by the time it gets to your front foot, that doesn't work. Then you're on plane for a short amount, like people that are trying to be on plane at their back knee or their back hip. Like you don't want to hit the ball there. You're not, your barrel's going to be so far below your hands, you're just going to slice it the other way or slice it foul or probably miss it. So if your hand path is incorrect and you do something, like I said, funky early, and it's very easy, just watch the big leaguers, for crying out loud. It's not that difficult. Just watch their hand path, chart their hand path. Big leaguers, how did it work on this pitch that they hit a line drive at 25 degrees? That's what we want to do. And that's where we came from. My dad taught me that, like when we were using VHS. Copy the big leaguers is what Ted told him. Copy the great players, they'll tell you what to do, right? And that's been exactly what I've done, and I still do to this day. I pull videos of the best players in baseball. I figure out what they do. They might have different subtleties in their rhythm and their timing, but for the most part, hand paths are pretty similar. There might be some variation on guys that hit for lower averages and hit more home runs, but for the most part, that first like 4 to 6 inches from launch to when they start to rotate, it's pretty much identical.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, too, another thing to bring up with the hand path, and this is something that always bothers me and bugs me, and something I notice when watching amateur hitters. The hands, when they're coming from launch or getting from launch to contact, the hands are drifting away from that back shoulder and it's creating a very large space between the
Mm-hmm.
hands and the shoulder. And that to me is an errant bat path and an errant hand path, vice versa, because hand path, is he going to equal that
Yep.
bad hand, whatever, bad
Yes,
path.
bad
A lot of
swing
paths
plane.
today. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right, Jim. So I'm creating is what I'm doing this winter, people. I'm creating an online curriculum, if you will, for parents and for younger coaches, because once you get to 16, that kid's probably got a decent swing. Otherwise, he's not playing anymore. Okay. It means you can make tweaks at that age, but there are so many players from 8 to 14 that unfortunately don't get the right information at a young age and they
Mhm.
quit. And that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why baseball isn't growing as fast as it should be, as much as other sports during that age group. So I'm trying to create a step-by-step approach. How do we help our kids? How do we help? I'll use my own kid as an example, because I was talking to her this morning about it. She's a right-handed thrower and a left-handed hitter, and she said, "How did I end up hitting left-handed, Dad? Like what was the process there?" I said, "Well, when you wanted to swing left hand when you were little, and the first thing we swung was a golf club,
Yeah.
and you like to play golf left-handed, so we bought some, little kid golf clubs, and you swung a little bit, and then all of a sudden it was like, "Hey, let's try right-handed," and you were better right-handed. And then 3 years later, you decided to play softball. Softball wasn't the first, and we tried it again, and we tried to have you hit right-handed and look funny. So I put you on the left side, and all of a sudden, like, you didn't have any bad habits. You didn't have a golf swing from the left side. Your hands didn't drop. So I put the bat on your shoulder, and that's what we did for 3 years. I put the bat on her shoulder. I had her hands in the right position. I had her armpit open. I had her front shoulder down, and she never had. Now she's got other issues. Don't get me wrong. She doesn't extend very well because she's not super strong yet, and sometimes her lead arm collapses. But what doesn't she have? Exactly what you talked about, Jim. She doesn't separate her arms and over rotate her body, which is what we'll see. And that's why I want to get as many videos as I can from people out there that aren't part of the academy. Those of you that are in the academy are already locked in with that stuff. But just to show the amount of young players that have this issue. If I do a camp for a team of 10-year-olds, or I'll go work with the team for a couple hours, they all have the same issue. And if we can get all the coaches around the country, or at least the leagues on board of, hey, let's start with these basic drills to fix this one problem, which is exactly what Jim said. The player starts to rotate and they leave their hands behind.
Mhm.
Okay. Part of the reason is they're flexible and not very strong. The other part is they're not taught to do the move correctly. And so as soon as the shoulders start to accelerate and the hands do not come with them, it causes drag, it causes armbar, and it causes casting. What do the hands do? They typically go down and back. And once they get stuck down and back, what do? They have to come up, and then a player will flip their wrist. So everything with hitting is cause and effect.